Double agent in one piece, from Rox Pirates to World's Most Wanted. Please like, share and subscribe. Episode 1, One Piece World, 1480 in the Sea Calendar. Lynn, wake up quickly, don't sleep anymore, you're about to dock. A tall, muscular man with wavy blonde hair is pushing a sleeping teenager. The teenager opened his eyes in confusion and rubbed his sleepy eyes. Although the teenager looked very confused, there was a hint of vigilance in his eyes, and his body was even more tense, and he could erupt at any time. Newgate, don't bother me, I've just fallen asleep and haven't slept soundly. The teenager was named Lynn and was a crosser. Before he crossed over, he was just a very ordinary teenager, with no big background and no special experience. When she first crossed into the One Piece world, Lynn was also particularly nervous, afraid of accidentally dying at the hands of a pirate. But as time went on, Lynn calmed down. As for Newgate, of course, it is Edward Newgate, codenamed Whitebeard, who is also the future 4 Emperor's Pirates. Superman is a person with the ability to shock the fruit. But for now, Whitebeard is just a cadre of the Rox Pirates. That's right, the cadres of the Rox Pirates. Lynn is also a member of the Rox Pirates, but he is not a cadre, just an intern pirate. Alright, Lynn, hurry up, it's time for breakfast, and we're going to prepare breakfast. Whitebeard didn't care, and gently tapped Lynn on the shoulder. Although Whitebeard did not exert any force, but the bottom was there, patting on Lynn's body, it was still slightly painful. How to say that it was also Whitebeard? I see. Lynn got dressed, followed Whitebeard, and came to the deck, where the two men began fishing. That's right, fishing to prepare breakfast. Both breakfast and dinner were basically prepared by yourself. After all, this is the Rox Pirate Regiment, which believes in the elimination principle of iron and blood. And because Rox did not stop it, his companions were often killed, so in order to prevent someone from poisoning, he prepared his own food. Lynn sat next to Whitebeard, holding a fishing rod in her hand, silently looking at the sea, peeking at Whitebeard next to him from time to time, and soon fell into contemplation. After crossing over, Lynn is an orphan, and then he is arrested by a group of people. Lynn thought she would be sold into slavery and despaired of the future. It was later learned that he had been elected to the world government secret spy organization, became a member of the CP0, and was trained as a professional spy. That gave Lynn hope for the future again. It's just that CP0's life is really hard, every day to carry out hard training, weak strength, directly will be eliminated. Elimination is not a good end. Because the living will not be eliminated, only the dead will be eliminated, Lynn in order to survive, desperately training, again and again. Finally, successfully graduated from CP0. After graduating, Lynn's first task was the task of 9 deaths. Join the Rox Pirates. That's right, he's an undercover agent for the Rox Pirates. It's called Undercover or Informant. It doesn't sound good, that's a 5-year-old. Lynn has no qualifications to refuse, and cannot rebel against the world government, so he can only carry out the CP0 mission and join the Rox Pirates. As luck would have it, he successfully joined. But Lynn never let his guard down, because joining the Rox Pirates was just one of the missions and he needed to live. But you must not be killed by your companions. Especially those who are looking at the tiger. Golden Lion Stony, Big Ant Charlotte Lingling. John, Silver Axe, Wang Ji. The future 100 Beasts Kaido has not yet appeared. If he was not careful, he might one day be killed, and he would still be killed by his nominal companion. Lynn, I've caught a fish and can now go to dinner. Whitebeard interrupted Lynn's thinking. Lynn retracted her fishing rod and followed Whitebeard, silently watching Whitebeard's back. After joining the Rox Pirates, Lynn found a way to pull in the distance between him and Whitebeard. After all, if you want to mix here, you still need strength. Although he joined CP0, his strength is not top-notch, at most, it is the middle and upper levels. So Lynn revealed his purpose directly, not for the sake of treasure, but just to find a companion who could be entrusted to the back. Then he managed to get Whitebeard's attention. After all, Whitebeard's dream is family, his dream is companionship, and both of them are somewhat similar. In the next few big battles, Lynn intentionally or unconsciously fought alongside Whitebeard to help Whitebeard solve some enemies, and the two sides became good friends. Although some use Whitebeard, but Lynn also has no way, he also wants to live, does not want to die, can only have a good relationship with Whitebeard. One by one, the two men came to the kitchen. After a full meal, Whitebeard and Lynn sat on the deck, their backs to the strings of the ship, looking out over the sea in the distance. Lynn, you said that in a few years, on this sea, will anyone remember our names? Whitebeard suddenly asked. Of course you can, maybe in a few years, or more than a decade, you'll form your own pirate group, have your own family, and become the strongest man in the world. Lynn said affirmatively. After all, he had watched the anime, naturally knew the future of Whitebeard, and knew that Whitebeard was one of the best people to mix. La, borrow your auspicious words, I believe in you, the future is also one of the strongest people in the world. Whitebeard laughed. No, you're mistaken, this is never my future, the future of me will definitely become the most handsome man in the world, or the most attractive man in the world, Lynn said solemnly. Episode 2, The Most Handsome Man in the World. Whitebeard was quite speechless to Lynn. I thought Lynn wanted to say something, but I didn't expect to think that I was the most handsome man in the world, and my face was thick enough. However, the Whitebeard took a careful look. Lynn was indeed quite handsome and had a unique charm. Maybe it will hurt countless girls in the future. Lynn, don't be kidding, as far as you are concerned, you are also worthy of being said to be the most handsome man in the world, and the most handsome man is none other than me. In the distance, a man with golden hair like a wild lion approached. This is the future sea thief Golden Lion. Only at this moment, Shurji did not have this code name, and he was only a small cadre of the Rox Pirate Regiment. Yes, like Whitebeard, the top sea thieves in the future are just emerging as a small cadre. In the face of Stoney's ridicule, Lynn was very unconcerned, and even completely ignored. After all, he and Stoney did not have a very good relationship. Whitebeard also stared at Stoney. Smith, what does it have to do with you between the two of us? Believe it or not, I'm going to beat you to the bottom of the sea right now. He had a good relationship with Lynn, but not particularly well with Shiki. After all, Shurji was a tyrant, and the two also had many disputes, and they could still be regarded as half-enemies. But Lynn was his friend, and the two sides fought side by side many times, and Whitebeard naturally wanted to help Lynn. Well, Newgate, don't talk nonsense with this guy, he's definitely jealous of our two captains. Lynn also deliberately threw her hair off. La, indeed, we are quite handsome, this boy just envies us. Whitebeard was also next to him to cooperate with Lynn. Shurji didn't care, sat next to the two of them, and shook his hair fiercely. To say handsome, the whole ship, I am the most handsome. Nonsense, I'm also handsome. When it comes to handsomeness, all the men are arguing, as if they are the most handsome, and even some people are fighting. Rox watched from the front and didn't say a word. This is his policy of raising clams, only the strong deserve to survive, and others can only be eliminated. There are enemies, but also sea thieves. Suddenly, a shout interrupted the crowd. Everyone was ready for battle, and Lynn jumped to the front of the pirate ship while looking off into the distance. Newgate, get ready to go. Got it. Whitebeard stood in front of Lynn, clutching a large knife in his hand, ready to strike. Lynn squinted. Opposite the pirates, whom he also knew, were currently one of the largest pirate groups. Of course, it's a little bit worse than Rox. After all, Rox is now the rightful hegemon of the New World, daring to contend with the world government, and even the navy has been suppressed. Up. Rox didn't move, just raised his hand, and all the pirates rushed out. It can be seen how heavy the majesty of Rox is. Lynn also rushed out, followed by Whitebeard, and the two landed on the deck of the pirate ship together, and then began to fight side by side. Whitebeard raised his large knife, turned it around, and then slashed at one of them. Above the large knife, with a white air mass. Shock fruit launch. The shock force was accompanied by a large knife, hitting a pirate in the head. The pirate's body trembled for a moment, slammed into the deck, and then completely fainted. It's pretty awesome, look at me next. Lynn raised her right hand and held out 2 fingers, but in the next second, Lynn's fingers were all bent to form a claw. At that moment, he actually forgot his identity again, and almost used the Navy 6. This time is often forgotten, basically only remembered at a critical moment. Once exposed, that's the end of the game. Lynn grabbed a pimp's head with one of his claws, leaving a trail of blood, and the pirate let out a scream and fell to the ground, struggling in pain. Boy, look at me. Ski suddenly jumped to Lynn's side, raised the double knife in his hand, and swung 2 knives at will. It was 2 sword chi that flew out and passed by Lynn's side, cutting through the deck and cutting the 2 pirates in half. How's it going? I'm awesome, right? Shurji deliberately showed a moment. This stinky fart expression, Lynn could hardly imagine that this was actually the golden lion of his youth. Stoney, aren't you interested in me? He also deliberately appeared in front of me, and I didn't expect you to be such a man. Lynn, of course, was going to hit Stoney. Otherwise, Scrock might put his nose on the face later. Squire listened to Lynn's words and stumbled and almost fell to the ground. The white-bearded man also had disgust in his eyes. It's hard to believe that this guy really thinks so. The battle was soon over, and such a huge pirate regiment, under the siege of the Rox Pirate Regiment, completely disappeared. Not even Lox took the shot himself. After solving the pirate group, nature began to clean up the battlefield. Every time Lynn would make a lot of money, although this money is nothing, but good evil is also money, or can be collected. Lynn, there's a demon fruit here, and I remember this fruit, the fish fruit, in the ancient dragon form. Whitebeard suddenly took a box and happily threw it in front of Lynn. A pirate next to him had a cold glint in his eyes, and immediately rushed to Whitebeard, holding a large knife in his hand, and slashed at Whitebeard. For the sake of the demon fruit, even if it was a companion, he could not let go. This is the code of the Rox Pirates. Unfortunately, he met Whitebeard. Even if it is not the future 4 emperors, it is still a top-sea thief. Whitebeard just turned around and slashed the pirate to death. Everyone else was startled by Whitebeard. Sneak attacks are certain, frontal combat, and they have no certainty of victory. The top strong people also do not look up to an ancient species. Episode 3. Lynn, this is a nice ancient demon fruit, so you should take it first. Whitebeard throws the devil fruit to Lynn. He didn't care very much about this demon fruit, but Lynn, a rare friend, didn't have a demon fruit yet. If you have the demon fruit, you should be able to get stronger. He hoped Lynn would live longer. Thank you. Lynn took the demon fruit and did not rush to eat it, and he also had some hesitation in his heart, not knowing whether he should eat it or not. If you don't eat it, the future ant can get the fish fruit Esper species green dragon form, which is a very good fruit. His talent is not bad. If you add this fruit, you may not be able to reach the level of Kaido in the future. Even if it is slightly inferior. Ding dong, the system has finished loading, please open the system page. While Lynn was thinking, a strange voice suddenly came out of his head. Is this sound a system? Lynn was suddenly a little excited. After crossing over for so long, he also wanted the system, but he had never encountered it all along, and even thought that he was a rarity among the crossers. After all, crossers are systematic. It's finally my turn. Lynn was so excited that she was about to cry. Lynn, that is, a demon fruit, doesn't seem to need to be so excited, right? Whitebeard helplessly covered his forehead. This good friend of his, who used to be very calm, has become almost like a fool today. The others were speechless. A demon fruit was thrilled like this. No, you don't understand, I'm not excited by the devil fruit, it's just because someone gave me a gift for the first time. Lynn casually made an excuse and turned on the system at the same time, but it didn't take much attention. The pirates nearby are not good people, but they can't give these pirates a chance, otherwise these pirates will sneak up on them and die without knowing how to die. Lynn, it seems that you lack friends, but rest assured, I will be your good friend in the future. Whitebeard gently patted Lynn on the shoulder. He felt that Lynn was similar to him. One lacks friendship, one lacks affection. Lynn also looked at the Whitebeard. If before, he did not dare to rebel against the world government, he could only honestly be an undercover. But now, with the system, he no longer needs to be afraid of anyone. You can go your own way later. The next step is to clean up the battlefield. Lynn didn't have time to look at the system, and he wasn't in a hurry, and after so many years, he had long been used to life without a system. At night, it is another celebration. At the celebration meeting, 3x3, 2x2, Lynn and Whitebeard sat together. While drinking, Lynn focused on the system. System, you've finally turned it on. Do you know how I've been through all these years? Do you know how miserable I was? Lynn couldn't help but complain. Come, Lynn, drink. Whitebeard said suddenly. Lynn turned back and began to drink. He has been really bitter for so many years, no greedy blue moon, no games, only continuous training, and then survived CP0. But now it's good, the system is finally turned on. System, what system are you? Ding dong, this system is an endless enhancement system, which can enhance any item, can also strengthen the human body, and even purify all skills. Every reinforcement requires reinforcement points, and you can get a little reinforcement point every year. In addition, you can also get a reinforcement point when you achieve a certain achievement. Hardened system, this is pretty good. Lynn took a closer look at the properties on the system panel about herself. Name, Lynn. Physique, LV8. Navy Type 6, Advanced. Domineering, Low Level. Item, Fish Fruit Ancient Species Dragon Form. Reinforcement Point, 1. Very ordinary, compared to those top masters, it is simply scum. Especially Domineering, only low level. But also, he is not yet 20 years old, has just learned to be Domineering, and does not have Luffy's perverted talent, nor does he have the guidance of a famous teacher. It's good to learn to be Domineering. And it's only two-tone Domineering. But thankfully, he has the system. Lynn thought about what should be strengthened. First of all, strengthen your own physique, or strengthen the ancient dragon form of the fish and fish fruit. The demon fruit is already swollen in ancient times, and if it is strengthened again, it should be the legendary Esper species. It is a bit of a tangle, what should be strengthened. There is only one reinforcement point, there are still 2 months to go before next year, and you must make a good choice, otherwise you have to wait for 2 months. After struggling for a while, Lynn finally made a choice in her heart. Demon fruit can be strengthened first. An excellent demon fruit can not only greatly increase your body, but also increase your defense and vitality. The main thing is that this fish fruit, perhaps similar to the fish fruit Esper species Qinglong form that Kaido will obtain in the future, can swim in the sea. What he was most looking forward to was the enhanced demon fruit. Maybe it works a lot. After making the decision, Lynn was not in a hurry to strengthen the demon fruit, and now that there were so many people, it was not good to be discovered. He was not yet qualified to rebel against Lox. After the banquet, everyone went back to their rooms. As the overlord of the new world, Lox has his own island, and everyone has his own room. And the distance is relatively far away, just to prevent someone from sneaking in at night, so as to facilitate the response. After returning to his room, Lynn carefully took out the demon fruit and played with it carefully. What a good demon fruit! I just don't know what kind of demon fruit this demon fruit will become after strengthening. Will it turn into an Esper species? System, give me the enhancement of this demon fruit. As he spoke, the demon fruit kept changing, quickly changing from a blue rippled demon fruit to a black rippled demon fruit. The changes are particularly big. Episode 4. System, what kind of demon fruit is this? Lynn looked at it carefully, he didn't have a demon fruit atlas, naturally he didn't know. Ding dong, the demon fruit enhancement success, congratulations to the host, get the animal Esper species black dragon form demon fruit. The sound of the system is so pleasant to the ear. Lynn had ecstasy on her face. Sure enough, as he thought, it was the Esper species. It is also a black dragon form, which is estimated to be similar to Kaido's green dragon form. They are all the top demon fruits in this world. As long as you exercise well, you may be able to hit Kaido's step, plus the system absolutely can surpass Kaido. Lynn couldn't wait to swallow the demon fruit in one gulp. The moment she swallowed it, Lynn was ready to eat it in particular. It is said to taste similar to Siang. The next second, Lynn licked her tongue. It tasted pretty good, better than strawberries, and Lynn would love to come back if she could. Not bad, I didn't expect it to be so delicious, by the way, try this demon fruit. Lynn squeezed her fist slightly, and then her mind moved, and a lot of black scales suddenly appeared on her arm. The pitch-black scales, which emit a dark luster, look very hard, which is definitely the top defense. In addition, Lynn could clearly feel that her power had become much stronger. This may be the ability of the animal Esper species demon fruit, which can greatly increase the physical constitution of people. System, open the panel. Name, Lynn. Physique, LV9. Navy Type 6, Advanced. Domineering, Elementary. Abilities, Swallow Fire, Manipulate Lightning, and Manipulate Storms. Lynn noticed that there was a lot more power on the system panel. These should be the abilities that come with the demon fruit. For example, the soul fruit of the Big Mother can also use fire and lightning. Kaido's fish fruit Esper species green dragon form can also spit out flames and abilities, and can also control storms. This is the ability that a top demon fruit ability person should have. In the end, these are the upper fruits. Lynn was very happy, and that ability was pretty good. By the way, next, let's temper the Domineering. Wait until the Domineering breakthrough is over, and then use the enhancement points to strengthen the Domineering. Lynn had already made a decision. There are still 2 months left for next year, when you will be able to get a little reinforcement. He first tried to find a way to break through the Domineering to the intermediate level, and then used the enhancement points to directly strengthen to the advanced level. After all, breaking through to the intermediate level is very simple, and if you want to break through the high level, it will be somewhat difficult, not to mention the top level. Rest tonight, wait until tomorrow to get up, be sure to train well, one day, I will replace Lox. Lynn is looking forward to the future. A minimum of 2 years, a maximum of 5 years. Lox will be defeated in the Valley of the Gods, and that will be his stage. Before that, be sure to train well. As for the specific year, Lynn is not clear. Lynn collapsed on the bed, took the quilt, stuck it on her face, and began to snooze. One passed quickly. The next morning, Lynn got up early, perhaps because of the system, and Lynn was in a good mood and refreshed. Whitebeard was already standing at the gate. Lynn, happy today, did you get up so early? Yes, I'm very happy today, but Whitebeard, your vision is really bad. Yesterday's demon fruit is not an ancient species at all, it is an esper species. Lynn didn't hide it. Anyway, one day it will be discovered, it is better to say it in advance and make Whitebeard happy. Esper species, that's really surprising. Whitebeard was also a little surprised. He also didn't think that it was actually an esper species, but he didn't feel heartache, that is, a magic fruit failed. Alas, Newgate, such a good demon fruit, you actually gave it to me, is it not a little envious? Lynn patted Whitebeard's arm. Unfortunately, the Whitebeard was too high, and when he stood up, he could not pat the Whitebeard's shoulder. Kulala, that is, a demon fruit, the old man does not care about it at all. Whitebeard laughed, really not paying attention to it. He didn't care about gold and silver jewelry at all, nor did he care about demon fruits, only his companions. Indeed, there's nothing to envy about that, it's enviable compared to my handsomeness. Lynn brushed her hair. The appearance value after the crossing is still there, and now with the system, he will be the most beautiful man in the world in the future. By the way, do you want to strengthen your appearance? Unfortunately, the system does not have this option. But the next second, Lynn noticed that there was an additional option on the system interface. Appearance, LV8. The appearance of this level is quite good, but unfortunately, only strength is the most important, otherwise he will also strengthen the appearance to the full level. Otherwise, only the appearance of LV8 does not meet his identity. Whitebeard gave Lynn a blank stare. I don't know where Lynn's confidence comes from, thinking she's handsome. Well, don't talk nonsense, today we go out to practice, you just familiar with the demon fruit, you need to adapt to your own strength. Whitebeard interrupted Lynn's thinking. Lynn didn't think much of it, it just so happened that he had just obtained the Esper demon fruit, so he could go out and try it out, and temper his domineering spirit by the way. As long as the domineering spirit is strengthened to a high level, then he will have the strength of a general, and he will be among the best in the entire pirate group. Before that, he had to strengthen his domineering spirit to the intermediate level, and Whitebeard was a good sparring partner. The two of them finished eating, then found a place and prepared a good fight. Episode 5. On the shore, Lynn and Whitebeard looked at each other. The body exuded a momentum and set off a wave of waves. The sea also set off a series of faint waves, constantly lapping at the shore. There were a lot of pirates standing around. These pirates came to watch the battle and pass the time. After all, this era is really boring, there is no game console or anything like that, you can only find things. Cut, Lynn is all relying on Whitebeard, and even dares to challenge Whitebeard. Don't look down on Lynn, he is not a cadre, but he is also a squad leader. There are people nearby who despise it, and there is admiration. As they said, Lynn is not a cadre, but with great strength, he is also a squad leader. But he was just before. Now Lynn, with the animal Esper demon fruit, has become stronger, no worse than Whitebeard. The only thing worse than Whitebeard is domineering. Newgate, don't be merciful to your men. As soon as Lynn stepped on the ground, he leapt out of the sky, and then quickly flashed, leaving only a black shadow. A lot of people couldn't catch Lynn's movements. Lynn, I will never spare my subordinates. Whitebeard raised the large knife in his hand, turned it around, and then rushed to Lynn and slashed at Lynn. The sharp blade of the knife burst out a cold light. The cold light lit up Lynn's eyes. Whitebeard did not spare his men, he still knew Lynn's strength, even if he could not beat him, it was impossible to be hacked to death by him. Not to mention that Lynn had also eaten the demon fruit. And between friends, absolutely cannot let go, otherwise this is not important to friends. Lynn felt the chill blowing from her face, sneered in her heart, and clenched her right hand hard, her arm covered with domineering. Dark domineering, with a hint of white light. Compared to the high-level domineering of others, Lynn is much worse. Bang! The large knife and the fist collided together. The moment the two collided, a strong storm was generated, accompanied by a strong shock wave, like a strong storm. The storm quickly set off a large amount of smoke and yellow sand, which filled the sky and spread in all directions. Boom! Some of the pirates who were close to them did not have time to dodge, and they were directly thrown into the air, and they were constantly rolling on the ground. The remaining pirates reacted and quickly dodged away. Everybody run, the two of them are very good. Those who had looked down on Lynn before ran faster than anyone else. Only a few people still stood where they were, silently watching. These people were all cadres of the Rox Pirates. Many people, including the Golden Lion and Big Mama. Even Rox stood watching from a distance. After all, the Whitebeard is very powerful, worthy of attention. Lynn is actually not bad, that is, younger, otherwise he is also qualified to be a cadre. As for the pirates who were thrown away, Rox never looked at them. The very center of the airflow. Lynn and Whitebeard looked at each other, their feet deep into the ground, and did not take a step back. Lynn, you've made a lot of progress during this time. Whitebeard admires Lynn and is happy for Lynn, and the stronger Lynn becomes, the longer she can live. Nougat, let's come again. Lynn stepped forward 3 or 2 steps, and kicked one foot down hard, just above the handle of the big knife. With great force, Whitebeard did not grasp it for a while, and the large knife in his hand was kicked and flew away, spinning in mid-air. However, the Whitebeard did not react slowly, leaning to the right and raising his left hand high. Seeing Whitebeard's signature move, Lynn instantly knew Whitebeard's purpose. The shock fruit was launched. As Lynn expected, Whitebeard's left hand was bubbling with white air mass, and it was constantly vibrating through space, constantly tearing. The next second, there was an explosion in the air. Whitebeard slammed hard, and the shock fruit produced a strong vibration, constantly bombarding the ground, blasting the ground out of a huge pit. The pit continued to expand, and the cracks spread. Lynn immediately flashed to the side. He naturally could not use his body to resist the attack of the Whitebeard's shock fruit. That kind of endless explosion-like impact, ordinary people simply can't bear it. The moment Lynn ducked, the sea exploded, and a huge wave was set off. The sea is constantly roaring and converging, and the waves are superimposed layer by layer, and soon more than 10 meters high waves are formed. No wonder many people say that Whitebeard is powerful. The impact of this shock fruit is very perverted. Lynn looked at the roaring sea in the distance, still admiring the power of Whitebeard. Lynn, how's it going? You all right? Whitebeard smiled confidently. It's really good, then, I should also show my full strength, just want to know, how is the current strength? Lynn was also smiling, looking forward to the black dragon fruit. This was the first time he had used the black dragon form. I just don't know if it is similar to Kaido's green dragon form. He wanted to know more about his current strength. Well, let me see your demon fruit. Whitebeard picked up the large knife inserted in the side, and then watched from the side, and did not rush to move. He also wanted to see Lynn's true strength. Lynn no longer hesitated, opened her hands, and her body quickly underwent a huge change. A large number of black scales spread all over the body. First of all, the head turned into a huge dragon head. Above the dragon's head, there are also some blue patterns. The next second, Lynn's whole person suddenly grew larger, turning into a monster hundreds of meters long, even covering half of the sky. The body exudes a vast momentum. The pirates nearby were all dumbfounded. It was the first time they had seen such a majestic monster, and it was a little scary. Some people were even more frightened. Episode 6. This. What kind of monster is this? It's terrible, let's run. Many little pirates, seeing the huge Lynn in front of them, had their eyes full of horror. In the eyes of these people, Lynn, who was Black Dragon at this moment, was a monster. Only Rox and a few other cadres revealed a glint in their eyes. Even Whitebeard was happy for Lynn. Because the Black Dragon Lynn in front of him, although he looked like a monster hundreds of meters long, his strength was definitely very strong. He wanted Lynn to get better. It seems that Lynn has made a lot of money, and he feels that it is definitely not an ordinary ancient species, it is likely to be an Esper species. Sure G put his hands on his chest and was not too envious. He was also a demon fruit ability person now, so naturally there was no need to envy so much. Kula la la. Lynn, it looks like I'm really blind, but let me see how strong you are now. Whitebeard turned slightly, raised the large knife in his hand, and slashed at Lynn fiercely. Between swings, the shock fruit is about to be launched. Wait. Lynn suddenly stopped Whitebeard. Whitebeard stumbled and almost fell to the ground, but at the last moment, he stabilized his body. Lynn, is there anything else? Don't worry, let me see what I am now, I haven't seen it yet. Lynn flew to the shore, floating in mid-air, carefully observing the reflection in the water. In the middle of the sea, a majestic black dragon is reflected. The dragon had these 2 wings and some blue stripes on its body, which looked even more imposing. Lynn was a little surprised. Originally, I thought that his black dragon form should be similar to Kaido's, but the color was different. I didn't expect the shape to be very different. His current appearance is very similar to that of a Kunorokia in the world of Goblin's Tale. It can even be said to be exactly the same. Personally, I think that if I am similar to Kaido, I can't set off the protagonist, so I chose the King of Dragons and the black feather of the end. The only thing is that the ability is somewhat different. His black dragon form looks different from Kaido's, and he has similar abilities to Kaido. They can swallow fire, control lightning, control storms, and even fly. Overall, Lynn was exceptionally satisfied. Handsome, really handsome. I didn't expect that I was not only handsome, but also very handsome after the bestiality. Lynn, you said you were so handsome, and you didn't let anyone else live, and if they committed suicide in shame, I would be a little embarrassed. Lynn said to herself. The pirates nearby were all black-faced. Even Lox, the corners of his mouth twitched, feeling speechless to Lynn. Never seen such a brazen person. Lynn, it's time to do it too. Whitebeard raised his large knife again, slashed hard, and the ground shattered again, and the crack continued to expand. The sea made huge waves. Lynn also raised the dragon's claw high and slapped it down fiercely, the huge dragon's claw, like a big mountain, pressed down on the Whitebeard. Boom. Before the two of them even collided, a violent explosion occurred, and the ground trembled even more. The next second, an earth-shattering roar resounded through the clouds, the sky was torn apart, and endless black clouds filled the sky and enveloped the sky. The sun was shrouded in this black cloud. Countless pirates were under the momentum of the two men, and their hearts seemed to be caught, and their bodies and minds were somewhat heavy. The next second, a more powerful shock wave erupted, setting off a terrifying wave that constantly lapped at the shore. Many nearby buildings were destroyed in an instant. Pirate ships rocked violently. Lynn and Whitebeard just looked at each other silently. The two sides were in a stalemate, and neither could gain an advantage. However, Lynn knew that Whitebeard had not shown all his strength, and he was already in his 30s, and he had already reached his peak state. That is, Lox is more perverted and can suppress him, and Whitebeard has no intention of quitting at present. Otherwise, if it really fought, Lynn really wasn't Whitebeard's opponent. The two sides were so fiercely deadlocked for a moment, and Lynn took the lead in retrieving his dragon claws and did not continue to move. He kind of understands his strength. Whitebeard also withdrew the large knife. Lynn, you are really powerful, the average general, absolutely not your opponent. Even if we are in the pirate group, you can rank in the top 10. That's right, Lynn can only be in the top 10. Because this pirate group is too perverted. Not to mention Lox, the overlord of this era, no one can defeat Lox. Although the entire pirate regiment came together because of their like-mindedness, Lox became a well-deserved king in his own right. Not to mention Whitebeard, Big Mama, Sure Ji, John, Wang Ji, and Silver Axe, all of whom are currently no worse than Lynn. So Lynn can only reluctantly shoot the top 10, and even less than the top 5, which shows how bad Lynn is mixed. Fortunately, Lynn is still systematic, and one day can surpass Lox. Lynn changed back into a prototype, and with no intention of continuing to fight, Whitebeard also walked over to Lynn and gently patted Lynn on the shoulder. Lynn, you're awesome. At the same time, Lox slowly walked to Lynn's side. Lynn, from now on, you are a cadre of our Rox Pirates. 3 days later, the world government sent someone over to deliver the money, and according to Luo Cheng's request, did not bring 2 strong people. Luo Cheng did not turn his face, got the money, and released Rochar Saint. None of the other pirates had an opinion. Because Lynn now, not much worse than them, is indeed qualified to become a cadre. No problem, from now on, I will be a cadre. A promotion and a raise, Lynn certainly wouldn't refuse. Although there is no salary increase in practice, being able to become a cadre means that Lynn's status has become higher. Let's go, Lynn, let's go for a drink. Whitebeard nudged Lynn slightly, then walked first toward the island. Episode 7. Lord Lynn, I toast you. Lord Lynn, this is my honor to you. A group of pirates surrounded Lynn, rather flattering. Because the Rox Pirates allowed each other to fight, there were often battles and there was often death. These ordinary pirates need to find a boss. Whitebeard has a lot of little brothers, and Lynn has a lot of little brothers now. Come, let's have a drink. Lynn was also not welcome. In addition to ordinary pirates, the cadres also ran over one after another and drank together. Don't look at these people who don't have a good relationship with each other, but on the surface, everyone is still very polite, and Lynn did not turn his face. The banquet soon reached the end. By night, Lynn and Whitebeard walked together, ready to go back to their room to rest. But when he felt that he was about to arrive home, a figure blocked Lynn's way. It is a tall, somewhat slender beautiful girl with a hat on her head. Don't look at her pretty looks, but in a few decades, this woman will also become a big mother-level figure. Oh, yes. This woman is Aunt Charlotte Lingling. It's just that the big mother at this moment is particularly beautiful, and can charm thousands of teenagers, even Lynn, who has been fascinated by the big mother. Of course, it is after crossing over, not before crossing the big mother in the TV that was watched before the crossing, and the long really scary thing. Lingling, do you have anything to do? Lynn frowned slightly. He always felt that the aunt had come to look for him, because that look had always been on him. Lynn, you're great, you're very talented, your genes should be excellent, do we want to be together and have a baby? Big Mama's eyes revealed a glint of essence. Whitebeard listened to his aunt and showed an expression that was indeed so. He knew that the aunt was looking for Lynn to have a child, because the mother had also found him and wanted to have a child. A child who can inherit the talents of two people. Whitebeard, of course, refused. The corners of Lynn's mouth twitched slightly. He also remembered now that the aunt seemed to have dozens of husbands and dozens of children, and the favorite thing was to have children. He dared to guarantee that it would not be long before he married his aunt today, and when he had a child, his mother would be the first to dump him. The most important thing was that he had understood that the aunt had already had several men before, and already had sons, even daughters. What is he with Big Mama? To be a Big Mom's favorite? Or to be Perot's stepfather? Maybe he will be dumped at any time in the future. I'm sorry, Mama, I don't like bus trains. Lynn turned down Big Mama. Big Mom was a little confused for a while. What does the bus train mean? That is to say, the big mother is not a crosser. If she knows what she means, it is estimated that she has already been mad. Oh, I'm not interested in having children, I'm not going to look for a woman yet, I'll talk about it later. Lynn immediately shifted the subject. Big Mom didn't think much about it, but felt particularly sorry. Well, forget it, but if you're really interested in having kids, we can have a baby together. I believe that several of our children will inherit the excellent genes of the two and become the strongest people in the world. I'll talk about it later. Lynn smiled and watched as Big Mama left. It is impossible to covet his beauty. At least he couldn't look at the big mother. This kind of bus, don't want to give it to him. After the aunt was gone, Whitebeard asked. Lynn, what did you mean by that bus just now? Whitebeard noticed that just now Lynn's expression was very strange, which showed what Lynn was thinking. Oh, the bus, as long as you give money you can get on it, do you think the bus is good? Lynn said playfully. Whitebeard understood instantly. Not to mention, there is no difference between a big mother and a bus. After all, so many men, not even married, have several children, how can Lynn be with the big mother? Lynn, you really can't be with him, this woman, not a good person at all. Whitebeard also had a look of disgust. When the eldest mother first asked for him, he didn't ask for it, because it was impossible to be the stepfather of those people. Well, without saying so much, it's not too early, and we should go back to rest. Lynn walked into the room first, and as for the big mama, he didn't think much about it, and it was absolutely impossible to be with the big mom anyway. Whitebeard likewise didn't think too much. On the other hand, the mother returned to the room and felt special regret that she did not take Lynn. Last time she was rejected by Whitebeard, this time by Lynn again. Why do these people always reject her? The aunt sat on the edge of the bed and looked in the mirror, still so choo-choo and moving, beautiful and crowded. I just don't understand why such a good person, who took the initiative to find Lynn and Whitebeard, will always be rejected. Alas, these people really have no vision, and they can't even look at me. Nearby, several of the children of the big mother looked at each other. Although they are still children, they are very aware of the character of the big mother, and they must not make the big mother angry. Mom, they can't look at you, that's because they don't have eyes. Yeah, our mom is the best person. Several people patted a sweet ass at the same time. Yes, that's because their vision is so bad, forget it, don't say so much, it's not dark tonight, rest early. When tomorrow dawns, you can go find the giants and see if you can find one or two good giants. Pero and the others were relieved and finally fooled the big aunt over. They are really afraid of the big mother's madness. The night went by. For the rest of the time, Lynn's life was as calm as ever, and nothing was too much to do. The whole world is also calm. Episode 8, Bang Bang Bang. On a desert island, Lynn and Whitebeard clash fiercely, with both sides punching and kicking and not using the demon fruit ability. The battle between the two set off a series of waves. The whole island was full of storms, the number of them was constantly trembling, a large number of leaves were blown apart, and there was a loud whistling sound in the sky. This is the battle between the two. Between the hands and feet, there is such a great power. The battle lasted for half an hour, and then Lynn stopped, and then found a place to rest. The two were leaning against a large tree at the same time, with their backs to each other, looking up at the sky. Lynn took a deep breath. For months, Lynn had been fighting Whitebeard every day to train her two-tone domineering. As long as the two-color domineering chi reaches the intermediate level, he will immediately use the enhancement point to strengthen the two-color domineering, and then he can directly reach the advanced level. Although she has a system, Lynn is still working hard, hoping to have the strength to touch the ceiling as soon as possible. When he successfully stands at the top of this world, then Lynn will not need to work hard, just wait for a year's reinforcement point, and then strengthen a wave. Lynn, how long are you going to fight? We've been here for over 2 months. Whitebeard asked. I'm getting stronger, but I'm a little bit less domineering, so I have to keep trying. Lynn estimated in his heart that his two-tone domineering spirit had become stronger during this time. It is estimated that in a few days, it should be possible to reach the intermediate level. Yes, you do need to work a little harder. Whitebeard nodded slightly, and he also felt that Lynn's domineering spirit was too bad. Well, rest almost, continue to fight, it is estimated that in a little while, my domineering spirit will become stronger. Lynn rolled over a carp and stood steadily, then turned and slapped Whitebeard with a slap. Whitebeard heard the slap next to him, immediately turned to the side, quickly dodged, and then jumped into the distance. Lynn, you, a young junior, don't talk about martial arts and sneak up on me, an old comrade in his 30s. The corners of Lynn's mouth twitched slightly. This white-bearded man actually robbed him of his lines. The words that don't talk about Wuda are what he said. Come again. Lynn clenched into fists, the muscles in his arms bulged, and a black breath filled the air, enveloping Lynn's arm. This is Lynn's domineering, although it is only a junior domineering, but the good villain is also domineering. Lynn, let you see my domineering. Whitebeard turned around and clenched his arms hard, and the already robust arms became stronger, and the muscles bulged and clung to each other. It's like pieces of steel stuck together. The next second, a gas darker than Lynn's domineering spirit wrapped around his arm. Whitebeard's top-armed color domineering. The dark breath, more shining than Lynn's, bloomed with dazzling brilliance under the sun's illumination. Lynn did not hesitate, although the domineering spirit of the Whitebeard was a little stronger, but he was not an ordinary person, and it was naturally impossible to admit it. Bang! Two of you punch, I punch, keep colliding. On the island, the air currents generated by the two men were directly lifted up by the large trees, and then flew into the distance. On the surface of the sea in the distance, several pirate ships floated alone. There were many people standing on the pirate boat. They were all Lynn and Whitebeard's men. Alas, the two cadres are fighting again, and I estimate that tonight, if we don't fight until 6 o'clock, I don't think we will stop. Then if we don't eat a little first, I'm hungry, and when the two cadres come back, we can continue to eat a meal. A group of people started eating. On the island, the battle between Lynn and Whitebeard is still in its white-hot phase. After a long time, Lynn suddenly noticed that his domineering spirit had reached the intermediate level. Especially the domineering nature of seeing and smelling, especially obvious, within 100 meters of the surroundings, everything is in his senses. Even a tiny leaf flew by, and he could feel it clearly. Whitebeard also notices Lynn's abnormality and is happy for Lynn. Lynn, you're finally improving. Lynn didn't take care of Whitebeard, focusing on the system and immediately adding some reinforcement. One enhancement point can just strengthen the domineering, and it is also two domineering forces to strengthen together. At the moment when Lynn strengthened, the domineering spirit above his hands suddenly became darker, even covering his entire body. Lynn's whole being was in the sun's rays like a samurai in black armor. The domineering spirit also covers the small half of the island, just from the middle level to the high level. The change is particularly obvious, and then to the top, the change is more obvious. It's just a pity that the domineering spirit is only an auxiliary role, the gap is too big, and it is impossible to reach the level of the second kill. Whitebeard opened his mouth wide in surprise, and could put in an ostrich's egg. What he saw. Lynn's domineering spirit had evolved again. Now the domineering spirit is almost comparable to other cadres, and even he will catch up with him soon. But why Lynn's domineering spirit has progressed so fast is too unacceptable. Whitebeard felt like he had been hit. Lynn, why is your domineering improving again? Oh, maybe I'm too talented, too smart, so I'm improving very fast. No way, I'm a very good person. Lynn casually made excuses. You can't always say that you have a system. The Whitebeard covered his heart and hit hard. It took him more than a year to get to this point, and as a result, Lynn, more than 2 months, had already reached this step. It also keeps other people from mixing. Don't fight, don't want to fight with you. Whitebeard shook the stall. It was so unpleasant. Why was Lynn so perverted and had such a good talent? Episode 9. On deck, Lynn and Whitebeard were drinking, and both were happy. Lynn was promoted to high-level happiness because of domineering, and Whitebeard was purely for Lynn to be happy. The pirates nearby saw Lynn and Whitebeard happy, and they were also happy. After all, the big guy was happy, and they were safer. Lynn, congratulations, you're getting stronger again. Whitebeard picked up a glass of wine and lightly touched the glass in Lynn's hand. Lynn was also not polite and took a sip of wine. Just as the two were drinking, a huge pirate ship slowly approached from a distance. It didn't take long for the ships of both sides to meet. Whitebeard was the first to see the ship in the distance, frowning slightly, then took up the large knife, stood up, and walked to the edge of the ship. Lynn also turned her head to look into the distance, wondering which pirate group this was that made Whitebeard treat him so seriously. Lynn, get ready, it's time to fight. The white-bearded knife had been raised. Oh, to make you so serious, you shouldn't look like an ordinary person. Lynn was also interested, and slowly walked to Whitebeard's side, looking out at the sea in the distance. Lynn's pupils narrowed when he saw the characters on the pirate ship opposite. Roger. That's right, the man on the opposite pirate ship is the future One Piece, the famous Gord Roger. Lynn didn't expect to meet Roger here. This may be fate. That's right, it's Roger on the other side. You have to be careful, they pirate group, but they are very powerful. Because of many battles with Roger's pirates, Whitebeard is well aware of Roger's strength and should definitely not be underestimated. Rest assured, I will never underestimate Roger. Lynn's expression was also somewhat serious. The future One Piece, the strength is definitely very perverted, not even to mention One Piece, let's say that Pluto Rayleigh, is not something that ordinary people can deal with. Opposite, Roger had likewise found Whitebeard, and wasn't too frightened, and if Lox were here, he would surely have retreated. But if it was just a Whitebeard, it was not qualified to make him afraid. The pirate ships on both sides gradually approached. Newgate, I haven't seen you for a long time, I didn't expect to meet here today. Roger laughed. Roger, this time, I'm going to beat you into the sea. Whitebeard raised a large knife, pointed it at the front, and slashed out a knife with force, and the shock fruit was launched, constantly impacting the front. A huge wave broke out on the sea, and it slapped at the Roger pirates on the other side. Hey, do you need to be so fierce? As soon as we meet, we are also friends. Roger's face was green. As soon as we met, Whitebeard killed the killer. At the same time, Roger raised the western sword in his hand high and slashed hard. A sword chi leaped out, easily slicing the waves apart, and the sea water split into two sides. The sword chi flew towards the Whitebeard again. Lynn jumped to the front of the pirate ship and threw a punch that hit the sword chi head-on. Bang! A roar echoed through the clouds. The sword chi was shattered by Lynn, and a large number of aftershocks spread in all directions, and the pirate ship shook violently. Lynn returned to the pirate group, letting the pirate ships shake no matter how they swayed. Lynn was as steady as Tarzan, nothing happened. Whitebeard was also standing next to Lynn. Roger also noticed Lynn at this time, especially young, he had not seen it, but this strength, quite powerful. It easily shattered his sword chi. Just as Roger was about to say something, his face suddenly darkened, and he looked at Lynn with a grudge on his face. Because just now, he was ready to use the sound of listening to all things to probe Lynn's heart. But I heard Lynn complaining about his voice. Say that he is not handsome at all, and even a little ugly, and whether anyone will look at him in the future. It even set off his own handsomeness. What a cute guy. Newgate, who is this boy? Roger blackened his face and pointed at Lynn, who was quite unhappy inside, and had a feeling of being unable to speak. Who he is, it has nothing to do with you, Roger, keep doing it, and I'll let you know how good I am. The Whitebeard held the large knife high, and above the blade, a white air mass suddenly appeared, emitting a humming roar. Not to be outdone, Roger raised the western sword in his hand, aimed it at Whitebeard, and swung out a sword vigorously. The incomparably sharp sword chi instantly cut through the sea surface and flew straight towards the Whitebeard. But at the moment when the sword chi was about to approach, the white-bearded knife slashed down hard. The white vibration force constantly tore through the space and shredded the sword chi. The collision caused a huge explosion, creating endless air currents, setting off huge waves and constantly slapping the ship. Lynn stood next to Whitebeard, not in a hurry, just silently watching. The battle between Roger and Whitebeard, he had no need to intervene at all. After all, the opposite Pluto Rayleigh did not move, as the second in command here. No, it should be the core person, there is no need to rush. The ships of both sides were getting closer and closer, and Whitebeard even jumped on the other side's ship and engaged in a fierce collision with Roger. Pluto Rayleigh also walked over to Lynn's side. Boy, either the two of us will have a fight. I'm sorry, I don't talk to the ugly. Lynn didn't even look at Rayleigh. If you have this time to fight, it is better to have a good rest, nourish your spirits, and get up the next day for special training. The corners of Rayleigh's mouth twitched slightly. He actually said he was ugly. He is also the first commander of Roger's pirates. And no matter how you look at it, you think Lynn. Not to mention, Lynn is really handsome. Even if Rayleigh didn't want to admit it, he had to say that Lynn was much more handsome than Roger, that is, slightly worse than him. Episode 10. Boy, you're so arrogant, I'll let you see how powerful I am today. Rayleigh also pulled out the western sword in his hand and swung a knife at Lynn. A dazzling cold light lit up Lynn's eyes. A piercing chill blew across Lynn's face, even a tingling sensation. Lynn reacted well, taking a quick step back, a glint in her eyes. Rayleigh, don't underestimate me. At the same time as speaking, an invisible momentum erupted, swept through, and even rushed into the sky. Time seemed to freeze, and the dark currents of air, centered on Lynn, spread out in all directions. The clouds in the sky were scattered. The sea surface, which was shaking and shaking, also suddenly paused, but soon roared again. Rayleigh's pupils narrowed, and there was something incredulous in his eyes. Overlord color domineering. That's right, what Lynn broke out was the Overlord color domineering. Because I want to compare with Rayleigh, it stimulates Lynn's fighting spirit, and it also stimulates Lynn's domineering spirit. Lynn was also quite surprised inside. He also did not expect that his Overlord color domineering spirit was actually stimulated. This is one of the domineering qualities of a million people. Lynn looked at the system panel, and the Overlord color domineering was also attributed to the domineering. Also reached advanced. It is also possible that Lynn's strength is already very strong, so he has just awakened the Overlord color domineering, and he has a high-level Overlord color domineering. Rayleigh was only slightly surprised, but soon returned to God, that is, the Overlord color domineering, he did not pay attention to it. Roger on the other side also looked at Lynn. Who is that? I didn't expect that at such a young age, I actually had such a powerful Overlord color domineering spirit, and was also a member of your Rox Pirate regiment? Roger's tone was a little bitter, and there was still some jealousy in his heart. Although they also have many masters in the Roger Pirate regiment, it is much worse than the entire Roger Pirate regiment. Even in the face of Rox, he could only dodge. Yes, he is indeed a member of the Rox Pirates, and now he is also a cadre. Whitebeard did not hide, and at the same time as he spoke, the large knife slashed down at Roger, and a silver-white light was revealed on the blade, illuminating Roger's eyes. I'll go, Whitebeard, you sneak attack. Roger scolded, then quickly stepped back. Lynn also focused on Rayleigh, then opened her hands and had a large number of phosphorus sheets bubbling up on her. When Rayleigh saw Lynn's change, he knew instantly that Lynn was also a demon fruit ability, and he looked quite powerful. But in an instant, Lynn became a 100-meter tall behemoth. The huge body floated in mid-air, like a mountain. Rayleigh opened his mouth wide in surprise. Well. So big. Lynn's face darkened, and she always felt that Rayleigh's words were somewhat ambiguous, as if she was saying something. I don't know if it's about his huge size or about something. And he was also quite curious, in the form of a black dragon, whether there was something in the end. How can you think of such a thing? I didn't expect that you were actually a demon fruit ability, and it seems that you are still an Esper species, and it just so happens that I have not yet fought with the demon fruit ability of the Esper species. Rayleigh held aloft the western sword in his hand and slashed at Lynn. A dazzling sword chi exploded, flying out with lightning speed, and in a blink of an eye, it flew in front of Lynn's eyes. It flew right up to Lynn's forehead. But the moment he felt that the sword chi was about to touch Lynn, Lynn raised his hand, and the dragon's claw gently slapped it. Bang! The sword chi was slapped aside by Lynn, and flew over Lynn's forehead and straight into the sky. Boom! The sky, which was originally shrouded in dark clouds, completely dispersed, forming a huge gully, like an abyss. The pirates who were watching the battle nearby were all amazed. Especially the little pirates, even more shocked. Is this the strength of the world's top power? It's so terrible that the sky is scattered. I heard that it was Pluto Rayleigh, the deputy captain of Roger's pirates, and even Captain Lox didn't take Roger. Haven't they been taken down by Captain Lox? It seems that Roger is still quite powerful, and he can actually hide. When Roger heard these people's words, his face was strange, and he always felt humiliated. When he can escape from the hands of Lox, he can be called a master. But not to mention, Lox's strength is really quite perverted. It's very powerful, it was solved so easily, don't underestimate me, I'm also very powerful. Rayleigh raised the large knife in his hand again, jumped into Lynn's body, and ran quickly towards Lynn's brain. This speed was very fast, and the crowd only saw a series of black shadows, and there was no time to catch Rayleigh's movements. But Lynn is not an ordinary person, he can fully catch Rayleigh's movements, and raise the dragon's claws and shoot at Rayleigh. Rayleigh looked at the already somewhat gloomy sky, couldn't care less about running, and quickly jumped to the side, and Lynn took the opportunity to incite his wings and flew into the sky. At the moment of Lynn's flight, the strong air currents generated by the wings kept blowing on the pirate ship, causing the hull to shake violently. In mid-air, Lynn pulled away from Rayleigh, who didn't want Rayleigh near his body, and jumped on top of him. Pluto Rayleigh, I'm here for real. Lynn let out a loud roar. The sky became darker, and suddenly it rained heavily. A storm broke out on the surface of the sea. Raindrops fell from the sky the size of pearls, hitting people's faces, and even tingling. Even Rayleigh couldn't open his eyes.